On the night of August 14, 2025, a Bolt driver in Lagos accepted what should have been his final ride of the evening. The passenger was quiet, polite, well-dressed. Nothing seemed unusual. Until 23 minutes later, because at 12:31 a.m., a police officer looked into the back seat of that car and asked a question that would destroy everything the driver thought he understood about reality. "Driver, where exactly did you pick up this man?" The driver answered, "Lekki Phase 1. The officer slowly stepped backward. His face had turned white. Then he said, "That's impossible. We buried him 3 days ago." 34-year-old Samuel Adebayo had driven for Bolt for almost 4 years. He was not the type of man who believed in ghost stories. He lived with his wife and daughter in Oja. He worked long nights because nighttime passengers paid better. Friends describe him as practical, calm, and extremely skeptical. Samuel often laughed whenever passengers discussed supernatural experiences. He always said the same thing: "In Lagos, every mystery has an explanation." On Thursday, August 14th, Samuel began work at 5 p.m. By midnight, he had already completed 8 trips. He was exhausted. He decided he would accept only one more ride. That decision would become the biggest mistake of his life. At exactly 12:07 a.m., Samuel's phone buzzed. Pickup location: Admiralty Way, Lekki Phase 1. Passenger name: Mr. David Johnson. 5-star rating. No profile picture. Samuel hesitated. Late-night rides sometimes meant trouble. But the pickup was close. He accepted. The streets were unusually quiet. A light drizzle had begun to fall. As Samuel approached the pickup point, he noticed something strange. There was nobody there. He checked the app again. Correct location. Then, suddenly, someone tapped gently on his rear passenger window. Samuel jumped. A man stood beside the car. He could have sworn nobody had been there seconds earlier. The passenger looked to be around 50 years old. Dark skin, clean-shaven, wearing a black suit, perfectly polished shoes. No umbrella. Yet despite the rain, his clothes were completely dry. He opened the rear passenger door, sat down, and quietly said, "Good evening." Samuel nodded. "Good evening, sir." The passenger gave an address in Victoria Island. Then he added, "Please don't use the expressway." Samuel found this odd. The expressway was faster. But he agreed. As they drove, Samuel noticed something else. The man never touched his phone, never adjusted his seat, never moved. For nearly 15 minutes, he simply stared forward, without blinking. Eventually, the passenger spoke. "Do you enjoy driving at night?" Samuel laughed. "Not really, sir." The man smiled. "Night reveals things that daylight hides." Samuel didn't respond. A few minutes later, the man asked another question. "Do you believe people can disappear?" Samuel frowned. "What do you mean?" The passenger looked out the window. "One day you're here. The next day, everyone behaves as if you never existed." A chill ran through Samuel. He turned on the radio. The passenger never spoke again. At approximately 12:31 a.m., Samuel approached a police checkpoint. Routine stop. Nothing unusual. An officer approached. Samuel lowered the window. The officer shined his flashlight into the vehicle, then into the back seat. Suddenly, the officer froze. He stepped backward. Another officer approached. Both stared silently. Samuel became nervous. "Officer, is there a problem?" The first officer slowly asked, "Driver, where did you pick up this man?" Samuel pointed toward Lekki, Admiralty Way. The officers exchanged looks. One officer removed his cap. Then he quietly said, "Driver, that's impossible." The officer pulled out his phone, opened a photograph, and showed it to Samuel. Samuel felt his heart stop. It was the same man, the exact same face, the exact same suit. The officer spoke softly. "His name is Chief David Johnson." Samuel laughed nervously. "Yes, that's him." The officer shook his head. "Chief David Johnson died on Monday." Samuel's blood turned cold. He turned around. The passenger was still sitting there, silent, watching. The officers ordered Samuel and the passenger out of the car. Samuel immediately exited. The officers opened the rear door. Nobody was there. The seat was empty, completely empty. The officers searched the road. Nothing. No footprints. No sound. No person. Samuel began shaking uncontrollably. He knew what he had seen. The officers knew what they had seen. Yet the back seat was empty. The next day, Samuel visited the police station. He demanded answers. Investigators explained that Chief David Johnson had been a wealthy businessman. 3 days earlier, he had been found dead in his Victoria Island apartment. Official cause of death: heart attack. Case closed. Samuel requested to see the case file. One detail immediately caught his attention: Chief David Johnson's home address. It was the exact address the passenger had asked Samuel to drive to. Samuel drove back to the address that evening. The house was dark, abandoned. Police tape remained around the gate. He sat inside his car, thinking. Then he looked at his Bolt app history. His heart nearly stopped. The ride had disappeared. No record. No payment. Nothing. As if the trip had never happened. Then his phone vibrated. Unknown number. Samuel answered. Silence. Then a familiar voice. The same voice from the back seat. Calm. Quiet. Almost grateful. Thank you for bringing me home. The call ended. Terrified, Samuel returned to the police station the next morning. He demanded to see Chief David Johnson's file again. The investigating officer opened the folder, then froze. The officer slowly turned the file around. Attached to the evidence section was a photograph recovered from Chief Johnson's apartment, a photograph taken just hours before his death. The image showed Chief David Johnson standing beside a Bolt driver, smiling. The driver was Samuel, except Samuel had never met him before that night. Some mysteries are never solved, especially in Lagos, especially after midnight.